Welcome to Dead School Crypto, Crypto to the Bone. We're going to look at some charts. If you just woke up, you probably woke up to 101,000 Bitcoin. Price action's looking pretty good today. Let's look at some charts. As you can see, we have a green buy signal from Lux Algo. Starting to look a little bit resistance right here. We've had a very interesting ranging motion from, well, since we hit 108 up here. We've been bouncing all the way down to the low 90s. You might see some interesting stuff here in the coming weeks. This really is one of those situations where you just never know exactly what you're gonna see until you see it. Price action is going to be very volatile. There might be some ranging. We can see here we're right now on the daily chart. We do have a little bit of momentum going up here. This might last through I would say probably another 5 days to a week before we start heading back down potentially, but it really just depends on the money flow. That's a big portion of this right here. Let's take a look at the hourly. Yeah, the hourly is looking really nice. You can see here we've got some high volume. Big hourly candle. Another buy signal from Lux Algo. Let's take a look here. Right here, it looks like we're going to be trending up for a little bit. I would say potentially for the next 4, 5, 6 hours. Let's take a look at the 2 hour. It's a little less hot. The 3. I was wanting to dip on the 3, but it did break through. That's such a beautiful thing to see. 101,000 again. Come on, charts. Let's look at the 8 hour. So yeah, so these lines right here, these dotted lines, they're called spider lines. You can see how we've had a little bit of resistance right here, and you can see right here we've had some resistance as well. You can see these wicks right along this line right here. They just couldn't get through it, and we just needed some high volume. And you can even see down here the money flow. This purple wave here, when it's in the negative, when the money flows in the negative, it does look like it's coming up right here. So we could see some fireworks pretty soon. But and it might just take a little bit more time for this to really develop. And it might just blow straight through the roof by the end of the week. It's going to be an interesting week to see what happens. My guess is what we'll probably see, that's the 8 hour chart, by the way, but my guess is what we'll probably see is a pump all the way through the inauguration, or or at least close to the inauguration. And then I think we'll probably see a little bit of a pullback. Now, it's very possible that we do see that pullback, and it's also possible that it just kind of ranges sideways for a little bit around the inauguration time, and then maybe you do see some pullback, maybe 1% or 2, and then you might actually see things rip all the way to the moon. If we can break through the 108, which let me actually switch back to the charts here. If we can break through to the 108, or get close to, we're going to have to come up this way, for example. This right here. Well, technically things have not worked out well, this from a technological standpoint for me today. But you're looking at mid-January. If we rip upwards pretty hard at a 45-degree angle somewhat, it could look something like that. We might just go vertical. It's really tough to say, but right here, Hang on one second. Right there's the 20th. This is a 12-hour chart. I really want to put it on the daily, but I do want to look at the 12-hour as well. Let me check out the 8-hour here too. I mean, we've got signals right now that are saying that it's a little bit of a wash. I mean, we do have. I mean, the volume and the money flow. You can see the money flow, the green bar there, starting to come up, which is good. And then this white thing that you see right here, how it's kind of dipped down a little bit, and now it's kind of curving slowly up this way. I mean, if it continues to go that way, that's a good thing. The longer it goes up, the better, but that'll be more of a gradual move like this. If it's a sharp move like this, with like you can see this mountain right here, um, that gave you a pretty sharp move here, right? It wasn't very long, of course, because the money flow wasn't that great. Even though we did have some, the white candles here are the positive volume, meaning the buyers, and then these are the negative. These are the sellers. But it definitely looks like we do have an interesting week ahead of us. We really have an interesting 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today is when the new president will take his throne. Should be a fun venture. Hopefully, there won't be any other attempts on him as far as to take his life. Let's hope that never happens, which I'm sure eventually some president will have some issues. Let's just hope we don't see it in our lifetime, because it's never a good thing to be that divided of a country. And hopefully no other countries will get involved in something like that. We definitely don't need the country to fall apart at the seams, which it kind of seems like we're not having a good run of it so far. But um, I'll tell you what, let's take a look and see what's going on the altcoin season here. Yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to bring up too. The cycles are actually rhyming pretty well. It looks like we've got some decent altcoin moves, but really ultimately AI16Z. Oh, that's great. He's not attached to that coin, by the way. Mark Andreessen is not attached to that coin, if you weren't aware of it. At least everybody's looking pretty good. These altcoins are really doing well. SPX 6900. I almost got into that coin when it first came out and people were talking about it quite a bit. And then ultimately I decided I can't take the risk on it. I really can't. I had to play it a little bit more conservatively this cycle, but it is what it is. You got to do what you got to do. I mean, depending on what your risk tolerance is and what you're trying to do, you have to be very careful about how you play the markets. I mean, not every coin is going to shoot the moon and get you what you want or what your goals are. You just have to be very careful about what you're trying to do and know what you're trying to do and abide by whatever rule sets that you give yourself. Actually, let me check some other stuff here really quick. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, SPA, the last 7 days, this is just Stellar's in there, which I was surprised to see Stellar come back, even though I think a lot of people believe that Stellar is going to be involved in some larger projects, or at least the world projects. Let me rephrase that. Stellar is definitely an interesting project because I thought it was dead until it started coming back. People started talking about it getting involved in specific infrastructures and a variety of different things. I'd go into detail about it, but I'll actually do a podcast on specific projects. I'm not in love with it because until I see more from them and see more movement and partnerships. I'm not saying it's a bad coin. I think it's a decent coin. I think it does have potential. I just personally don't know enough about specifically where they're going and what they're trying to accomplish. Akon actually was representing Stellar or was pushing that coin hard last cycle, and I have not heard anything from him. Haven't seen any type of social media, or supposedly he was going to use Stellar to power a city as far as digital coinage, if I remember correctly, but I haven't seen a whole lot out of that since the bull run of 2021. Algorand's looking really nice right now. Right now at 42 cents, just needs a 4x really to get back close to all-time highs. Let me go to the max here. I'm not going to count this right here, FYI, because that's where it started out, and as soon as it launched, it just hit rock bottom. Yeah, it was just over $2.40. So really, you're looking at a 6x from here to hit the 2021 all-time high. It's really tough to try to get this top to nail down. What I mean by that is when I see an all-time high where it just peaked really hard and then just comes back down, I'd rather see like a consolidation in this area, saying that it had significant price action here, because that'll serve as support and resistance. The peak here to the very top is just like the very end of the run up, and then people started selling. Not to say that you shouldn't count it as an all-time high. Obviously, you can and you should. But personally, from where I take a look, this had a lot of like support and resistance here as it's climbing and chucking along, and then it just kind of bottomed out, and a lot of coins really did. I'm surprised it actually like. I'm a little surprised that it didn't go higher on the first peak, but then again, Bitcoin didn't. Now you can sit here and I guess I shouldn't say I'm surprised. I really shouldn't say that, because Bitcoin ultimately had a lower peak, but it was more of a technical top was the first one, and then the second top, the volume was lower, and I'd have to go double check. I mean, this looks like I don't know if this is an RSI or if that's actually volume down here at the bottom. I'll have to do research on that later, but anyway, Algorand definitely is a great project. They definitely need some more support. I'm trying to think of the guy's name, but he's like one of the like he teaches over at MIT and he teaches cryptography. He's obviously well known in the industry for it. That we're in an industry of cryptography. If you didn't know that and you're new to crypto, that's what crypto is. Cryptography. It's just encryption essentially. Sui or Sui, Sui, however you say that. That project I tried to ignore it. Unfortunately, I never got into it, but it really has surprised me. I could have gotten into this coin, and it was probably like 10 cents, 20 cents, somewhere around in there. I've heard a lot of people talk about it. Um, Maybe I was wrong about the 10 or 20 cents. Yeah, I was way off on that. Geez, may have been a low, unless there was like a flash crash, and I'm just this. Also, by the way, no offense to CoinGecko, but there's a lot of stuff that I see. USD. What I mean is with specific things on CoinGecko, it's a great website. There's nothing that I have a problem with. I will say that you'll see different heights, for example, like on TradingView, you'll see TradingView has more of accurate data when it comes to candles and things like that. When you go to CoinGecko, I don't know if they compile a variety of different data points together, or an average of them is what I think. I could be wrong, but when I use TradingView, I can choose the specific like exchange. For example, this is SUI or SUI US dollar on Coinbase, and I can click on that. And if I wanted to go to Binance or Binance, Finance, inside joke, and you might know that one unless you're new, but you'll see some subtle differences from exchanges. If you didn't really know that, you will. There's going to be some arbitrage moments where, if one exchange has it like a penny or two higher, then that's where people who talk about taking advantage of arbitrage, they'll go from one exchange to a different exchange, and then basically they make a penny. So if they're dealing in large volume, they can really make a lot of money that way. But crypto, you'll see some subtle differences in arbitrage because they each have their own bag of like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and whatever coins that they offer on the specific exchange. It's not just some large pool that every exchange pulls from. But yeah, what I was getting at is CoinGecko may not have as accurate a data as what you would see here on TradingView. I've seen some wicks and the body of some of these candles. Yeah, see right there, it shows 51 cents. Down here, let's see if yeah, it's like 41, 40. That's about 36, 33. So you're getting a little bit different picture here. You can obviously see that we had 40 on CoinGecko, and right here it's 33 cents. So that's just something to be aware of if you're a little newer to the industry. On the daily, let me actually get back over to Bitcoin really quick. Yeah, 1017. We are definitely pumping very hard right now. You can see right here we've got a lot of price action going. The volume to kick us up this high, I mean, it was just absolutely fucking beautiful. And November 5th, I mean, apparently it's been very common for pumps to happen around, every 4 years we elect a new president. Apparently it's very common to see a pump around the new presidency. Um, but the daily is definitely looking pretty strong here. I'm kind of bouncing around. A little bit exhausted. I was up pretty late. Probably gonna need a nappy poo. um, the daily definitely is looking pretty nice for the moment. And you can see here the waves are starting to move up. These are momentum waves right here, the gray ones with the little white crest. Got a green dot, so this thing is coming up hard, and then the VWAP looks like it's starting to come up too. Yeah, so this little white blob right here, it's starting to crest upwards, which means it's a little bit more of a local movement. The momentum wave is just showing you the momentum. The VWAP is more of like a little bit of a short-term type thing. It's what you could probably see. Now, if it comes back, if this white wave right here starts coming back down, it's called the VWAP, volume weighted average price, basically, or VWAP, however you want to pronounce it. But when this starts to come down a little bit, that'll be more of a local downward movement, and then you might see it rip to the upside if it rebounds, and then the momentum waves here start to move or continue to move upwards, is what I should say. This is an interesting chart right now. Let's see what we look like on the 2-day. I'm not adjusting my Lux Algo indicator right now, so normally what you would do is when you move from a daily to a 2-day, you would adjust the optimal sensitivity, which is right here in Lux Algo. It's a great indicator, and the indicator you see down here is Market Cipher B, with all these fun little waves. It's more of a predictive indicator. Lux Algo, I wouldn't say is a predictive indicator. They're both great, but I think that Lux Algo interprets the data and then gives you a little bit of a lag knowledge on where the market's headed. Whereas Market Cipher and the Market Cipher suite, I should say, gives you more of a predictive approach to identifying where the market's headed. And you can see here too the DBSI, which is the dual band strength index. You got a 17 on the bottom and a -5 on top, which means we should see some price action to the upside on the 2-day. You can see here the momentum waves and the VWAP right there. You can see a green dot printed. These are going up, so this might play out over the next week. We'll just have to see. Let's look at the higher time frames here. Let's go to the 4-day. Yeah, it's looking a little weaker on the DBSI because this dropped to a 13. You want to see a 14 and a -5 at the very minimum. So if it's 14 down here and -5 on top, that means things are going to go upwards. The bigger number up top and then a negative number on the bottom is more of a downward movement. The VWAP's coming up here, which is good. It's curving this way. So let me give you a little bit better idea. So if the VWAP is coming up like this, that's good because that means you're probably going to see more of a vertical movement from it. If it's coming like this, you could see more of a, you know, a lazy move or chop sideways, for example, potentially. Let's take a look at the weekly. Let's not mess around here on the first stream. It definitely looks like we're potentially going to see things turn around here. You can see on the weekly, this is good to see. And let me point out what I mean on Market Cipher. So your VWAP is looking like it's coming up this way. It looks like it's very subtly arcing this way. It's very difficult to see. But the good news is your money flow 2 is starting to round the bottom right here. So maybe maybe by inauguration day, or, you know, who knows? It's very possible you could see a stronger move. Like if it's kind of flat here, you might see it move very quickly to the upside. I mean, you could see it come up like this. You know, it's going to be an interesting couple weeks, really, until we get to the inauguration. Once we get about a week through the inauguration, then I think we'll have a very strong direction on where things are going. That's just one of the more interesting events that's going on. Obviously, we may have some of the Fed meetings that might come up here, or at least numbers for. I think we just had jobs this week. I'll have to double check. I've kind of started to ignore some of the things that we're getting from the Fed at this point. The reason being is they do affect the markets, but ultimately, when we're in a bull run, it's probably not going to affect us as much unless there's some seriously negative news. But these momentum waves right here look like they're making a move back to the top, which is consistently following this, and then the VWAP, which is all great. The DBSIs up top I don't love, meaning 5 up top, 3 on the bottom. It doesn't really do anything. And that's where you gotta take a look at multiple indicators, you know, like the stochastics and RSIs here. They're curving back up to the top here. It's, you know, at 97, right? It's almost at 97. Sorry, my cursor went to 97. This is sitting at 86. RSIs and Stokes that high during a bull run is pretty normal. You may see some drops, of course, when we have some volatility action. You'll see those things drop pretty harshly. So just be prepared for volatility. I think we will have some volatile movements coming up here soon. But you know, like I said, it's going to be an interesting couple weeks all the way through the end of the month. Once we get to the end of January, I think we're really going to start to see where everything is going, and that's ultimately what everybody needs to understand. You know, I know everybody's screaming for alt season. It's one of those situations where we just have to wait it out. You know, alt season is coming. Now, it'll be a lot stronger situation once we do get some sort of word if quantitative easing is going to kick in. If they continue to go ahead and tighten and squeeze the money supply. Now, granted, the liquidity cycle is hitting hard. China just came through with a $1 trillion package for stimulating their economy. The U.S. is still doing quantitative tightening because they're really trying to buckle down and make sure that people are not spending money. They want to slow the economy a little bit more because inflation is starting to kind of come back up just a little bit, and that's what we don't want to see. What we do want to see is a downtick in inflation, and then the Fed needs to cut rates one more time, which the smaller they cut rates, the better, because if they cut rates really hard, what most people don't know is that when you cut rates by large chunks, that means that you see something bad is coming, meaning you squeeze the production of the economy so much that you have to release very quickly the chokehold that you have on, our growth of our economy. So that's where you can kind of get into trouble when you're cutting rates too quickly. That's part of the reason why, if you cut rates too quickly, the inflation can respike like it did in the 70s. That's one of the reasons why you're seeing, the Fed being very slow to change the rate situation. They're going to do it a little bit at a time, and if they see something really terrible, they're going to start cutting chunks by 50 basis points rather than a quarter. So you really need to kind of, even though it sounds great that they're cutting rates, that also means cutting rates like in larger chunks above 25 BPS or a quarter percent. That you just have to realize that the more they cut, the harder they cut, the worse it's going to be most likely. So if they actually engineer a soft landing, that means that they're going to cut rates. Maybe when Powell said they're going to cut potentially 2 times this year, I think we might see them wait for another couple months before they decide on a rate cut. We might see pauses, for the next couple months potentially. It really just depends on the data that they get, what they see, the jobs markets, non-farm payroll, etc. So take it all in stride. It's going to be an interesting year, and the stock market looks like it's starting to stall out a little bit, potentially even roll over. I don't want to say that it's going to. Nobody can really predict it that well, but like I said, it's really going to depend on more so what happens with the Fed with the rates. Like the conglomeration of data that we're getting, they really need to be careful, because if they cut rates too quickly, inflation could spike, and then they have to raise rates again, which we don't want to do, because right now the entire world is going through quantitative easing, except for Japan. They're going to have to raise rates because they kept their rates too low. They dropped their rates, I believe, a year or two ago, and now they're having some inflation spikes. So, the world is on a 4-year cycle. It's called a liquidity cycle, and every 4 years, the countries inject money to bring their countries out of an economic slowdown. And we're actually close to 102 right now. That's kind of cool. It'd be nice to see some portfolios move upwards. Um, Sorry. Oh, yep, there's 102. There we go. There we go, folks. Get yourself a taste of the bone. Crypto to the bone. But anyway, yeah, so just strap in, be patient, try not to FOMO too much. As always, this channel is not giving out financial advice. It's for entertainment and mostly educational purposes. Everything is the opinion of Dead Skull. Welcome to the channel. Smash the like, subscribe. If you like what you heard here today, it was a little bit random, but if you like what you heard here today, smash the like, subscribe, put on the notifications. For right now, I'm probably just going to do videos, and eventually I'll get around to doing live streams a little bit later. I don't know when I'm going to start doing those, but we will get to the live streams, especially once we get to milestones, prices. But yeah, that's about all I got for you right now. Keep it live. I'll see you soon.